The jungle breathes in layers. Shafts of golden light pierce the high canopy, sliding across the mossy pillars of ancient trees. Beneath this cathedral of green, a troop of chimpanzees stirs, the forest echoing with their low grunts and rustling leaves. Morning dew clings to every surface, and the air hums with insect wings. It is a humid world of ceaseless motion and hidden battles, not all of which are fought with teeth and fists. One female sits apart from the group, her posture slow and deliberate. Her name, if she had one, might mean the Quiet Watcher. She has not eaten fruit since dawn, nor joined the others in grooming. Her belly is slightly swollen, and she scratches her side with restless irritation. Parasites, invisible but relentless, have taken residence inside her. Yet she knows what to do. Slowly she moves toward a patch of tall, sunlit leaves. They belong to Aspilia mosambicensis, a plant with rough, sandpaper-like hairs along its surface. The chimps know this plant well. It grows in small clearings, where the canopy breaks just enough for light to reach the undergrowth. The female plucks one leaf with care. She does not chew. Instead, she folds it lengthwise, pushes it to the back of her mouth, and swallows it whole. Then another, then another. Each leaf slides down unbroken, an act of conscious restraint in a creature otherwise known for smashing, tearing, and tasting everything it touches. Hours later, when she defecates, the leaves reappear intact, wrapped around writhing worms. The forest has witnessed something remarkable, a non-human animal using medicine not by instinct alone, but through deliberate knowledge. To the untrained eye, it may seem accidental, perhaps a strange preference for bitter greenery. But long-term studies in Gombe and Mahale tell a more profound story. Chimpanzees do not consume Aspilia for pleasure, nor for its nutrition, which is minimal. They seek it out seasonally, particularly when parasite loads peak during the wet months. During these periods, they also turn to another plant, Vernonia amygdalina, known locally as the bitter leaf. If Aspilia is a scouring brush, Vernonia is a chemical weapon. Its pith is packed with sesquiterpene lactones, compounds so bitter they cause even hungry chimps to grimace and drool. Yet after a day or two of this unpleasant diet, visibly sick individuals often recover. Their appetites return, their lethargy fades, and the parasites retreat. This behavior, called zoopharmacognosy, blurs the line between animal and apothecary. It's not simply that chimpanzees discover medicine by accident. It's that they seem to remember which plants heal and when to use them. In certain communities, mothers have been observed leading their young to specific plants when ill, not feeding them directly, but allowing them to observe the act. That quiet transmission of knowledge is cultural, not instinctual. Each group's pharmacological library differs slightly, shaped by geography, flora availability, and shared memory. The forest itself reinforces these traditions. Parasite cycles mirror the climate. During heavy rains, moisture softens the soil, eggs hatch and nematodes flourish. Chimpanzees respond accordingly, targeting medicinal plants more often when infestations spike. This seasonal synchrony suggests not random chance but adaptive awareness. In evolutionary terms, those who failed to self-medicate might have succumbed to infection long before passing on their genes or their knowledge. Over generations, natural selection favored the curious, those willing to taste the intolerable. The act of swallowing Aspilia whole is not just behavioral nuance, it is biological engineering. The leaves' stiff trichomes act like tiny hooks, physically attaching to the gut lining where parasites burrow. As the leaf moves through, it drags the worms out, a mechanical purge rather than a chemical one. Meanwhile, the leaves' secondary compounds further irritate the parasites, amplifying the cleansing effect. To perform this correctly, the chimp must resist the urge to chew, otherwise the leaf would fragment and lose its structure. That restraint, that moment of decision, is what separates learned practice from instinct. In field footage, one can sense the intelligence behind the motion. The chimp pauses, inspects the leaf's underside, perhaps gauging freshness or texture. Younger individuals sometimes attempt to eat the same plant improperly, tearing it or spitting it out, learning through discomfort what adults already know. The process is strikingly similar to human trial and error in early medicine. Before modern pharmacology, ancient people too relied on observation, taste, and imitation, skills honed in the same evolutionary theater. In the world of chimpanzees, sickness does not isolate. Observers have documented how companions watch over ill individuals, sharing resting sites and occasionally grooming them more gently. When the sick one recovers after consuming bitter pith, others seem to notice and later replicate the same behavior when afflicted. This suggests a rudimentary form of social learning, a living chain of medical knowledge that stretches through generations without words, written scripts, or laboratories. The forest becomes their pharmacy, each leaf a prescription written by natural selection. Vernonia grows on well-drained slopes, often near termite mounds, while Aspilia prefers moist clearings. Chimps know the geography of both. They can travel miles through tangled vines and riverbeds to reach the right patch. Some individuals even seem to specialize. Certain matriarchs or elder males are consistently the first to locate medicinal plants each season. Their survival instincts have evolved into something approaching wisdom. This pharmacological intelligence does not end with plants. Chimpanzees have been seen consuming clay or charcoal after feasting on unripe fruits, neutralizing toxins through natural adsorbents. In some forests, they mix different detoxifying materials in sequence, a kind of biological chemistry set orchestrated by trial, error, and inherited observation. When humans study these patterns, they often find parallels in traditional herbal medicine used by indigenous people sharing the same landscapes. The boundary between human and animal knowledge dissolves into continuity. Scientists have experimented by analyzing the feces of chimps after such treatments. The results are extraordinary. Parasite loads drop significantly within a day or two. Biochemical analysis of Vernonia extracts reveals potent anti-helminthic properties, strong enough to justify its use in modern medicine. What the chimpanzees discovered through generations of necessity now aids pharmacologists in designing treatments for human intestinal diseases. In a sense, the apes have been our silent teachers all along. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of this story is not chemical, but cultural. In different chimp populations, the plants chosen vary, sometimes dramatically. Western African chimps may prefer Vernonia, while those in East Africa use Aspilia or other genera altogether. This variation mirrors linguistic dialects, tool traditions, and hunting techniques observed across chimp communities. Just as some groups specialize in termite fishing or nut cracking, others specialize in herbal medicine. It is a testament to the chimpanzee's capacity for culture, for passing on learned behavior that is not hardwired by DNA. Consider what this means for evolution. Culture, once thought uniquely human, becomes a bridge between biology and innovation. It allows knowledge to outpace genetics, enabling survival strategies to spread within a single generation rather than over millennia. In this light, the chimp's bitter cure is not a mere curiosity, but a glimpse into the evolutionary roots of human intelligence, a spark of shared ingenuity that predates civilization itself. The forest closes around our view once more. The female who swallowed the leaves now moves with renewed strength, joining her companions near a fruiting fig. The troop erupts in chatter, loud, playful, alive. Yet hidden within this social chorus is something quieter, the hum of cognition, the transmission of knowledge without speech. For them, wellness is not a mystery solved by science, but an act of communion with the forest. Each leaf plucked, each grimace endured, is a lesson written in the language of survival. The chimps do not pray to heal, they act. And through that action, they reveal a truth we too often forget, that medicine did not begin in laboratories or temples, but in the patient observation of nature's patterns. The bitter cure of the chimpanzee stands as one of the oldest examples of applied intelligence on Earth, proof that wisdom, even when wordless, can bloom in the heart of the wild. The canopy of Borneo is a living ocean of green. Endless waves of leaves rising and falling in the humid air, each layer teeming with unseen life. The sun filters through 1,000 shades of jade and amber, striking the fur of a solitary figure, moving with ghost-like silence across the treetops. She is an orangutan, the gardener, the wanderer, and today the patient. A shallow gash runs along her forearm, the result of a sharp branch or perhaps a fall from a misjudged swing. In the forest, wounds are invitations, open doors to infection in a place ruled by bacteria, fungi, and parasitic insects. Yet the ape seems calm, methodical, almost clinical. She knows something about this forest that no textbook could teach. Here, healing grows on vines. Her movements are slow but deliberate. She crosses a gap between trees using a hanging liana, her massive hands curling around bark slick with morning mist. The rainforest pulses with life, cicadas drone like machinery, and a distant gibbon calls from the valley below. Every scent, every texture in this cathedral of humidity is a language to her. The orangutan pauses near a vine with heart-shaped leaves, shimmering slightly in the filtered light. She leans forward, sniffs, and then plucks a handful. The species has been identified by scientists as Fibraurea tinctoria, known locally as acar kuning, a plant rich in furanoditerpenoids, compounds with potent anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. The same vine that traditional healers in Borneo brew for fever and infections is now the chosen remedy of an ape with no fire, no tools, and no guidance beyond instinct and memory. She begins to chew, slowly, rhythmically, not to swallow but to extract. The fibers mash between her molars into a greenish pulp, the taste likely bitter and acrid. She grimaces, pauses, then resumes. The paste thickens as saliva mixes with the crushed plant tissues, releasing bioactive compounds that humans would later identify as natural antibiotics. When the mixture reaches the right consistency, sticky and moist, she stops. With her free hand, she gently applies it to the wound. The motion is precise. She spreads the herbal poultice across the cut, pressing it lightly into the inflamed skin, ensuring full coverage. Then she sits, arm extended, allowing the air to dry it into a natural dressing. To a casual observer, this might appear coincidental, perhaps just play or grooming behavior. But field researchers have seen this ritual repeated across different individuals and even separate orangutan populations. It is not random chewing, it is medicine. Documented in several Sumatran and Bornean forests, orangutans have been filmed selecting the same species of plant and applying it specifically to open wounds or inflamed areas. In the wild, such behavior is rare and deliberate. The apes do not use these leaves for food, nor do they engage in similar chewing with non-injured limbs. They seem to understand, at least in effect, what the plant can do. This is the canopy's version of first aid, a jungle pharmacy accessed not through laboratories, but through generations of observation and trial. The orangutan's body is its own laboratory, its pain receptors its diagnostic tool. When something works, when the swelling recedes, when the wound seals, memory preserves the recipe. And memory in the world of apes is the foundation of culture. The transmission may not be verbal, but young orangutans clinging to their mothers for years watch and imitate nearly every act. Somewhere in that long apprenticeship, they may also learn which plants heal and which harm. In this lush and microbial world, infection is a greater killer than injury. Every scratch risks festering, especially in the perpetual damp. The orangutan's use of plant poultices reflects an evolutionary triumph of knowledge over vulnerability. By turning to Fibraurea tinctoria or similar species, she accesses a pharmacy evolved over millions of years, plants that defend themselves with chemical warfare, producing compounds that disrupt bacterial membranes, inhibit fungal growth, and reduce inflammation. These same defenses, repurposed by the ape, become her invisible shield. After treatment, she does something equally remarkable. She rests. Orangutans, typically slow-moving but constantly foraging, can spend much of their day feeding. Yet after applying the poultice, she settles into her nest high in the canopy and avoids unnecessary movement. This behavior minimizes the risk of reopening the wound or contaminating the dressing. It is, in essence, a self-imposed recovery period, the kind of post-care that requires awareness of cause and effect. Scientists studying these behaviors have been cautious not to anthropomorphize, but evidence increasingly suggests problem-solving intelligence at work. Orangutans are known for their cognitive sophistication, tool use, planning, even deception. But medicinal self-treatment adds another layer of complexity. It implies foresight, an understanding that a current action produces delayed relief. This concept, known as future-oriented cognition, was once thought to be uniquely human. Yet here, in the steamy forests of Kalimantan, it unfolds in silence as a red-furred healer tends to herself with chemical precision. The ecological relationship between orangutans and their medicinal plants is an intricate coevolution. The vines and leaves these apes use thrive in the same mid-canopy zones that orangutans frequent. In turn, the apes disperse their seeds through droppings, ensuring the continuity of the very plants that heal them. It is a feedback loop of survival. The forest sustains the ape, and the ape sustains the forest. Without orangutans, many of these medicinal species would lose their most effective seed couriers. Without the forest, the orangutans would lose their pharmacy. Under the microscope, the chemistry of these interactions becomes even more fascinating. The bitter alkaloids and diterpenoids found in Fibraria and related species interfere with bacterial signaling pathways, preventing colonization and biofilm formation. Essentially, the plant has evolved molecules that stop bacteria from communicating, and therefore from organizing into dangerous infections. By applying this paste, the orangutan weaponizes the plant's own immune system as a topical antibiotic. Evolution has written two stories, one in cellulose and chlorophyll, another in muscle and thought, and here they intertwine. There are parallels in human tradition that echo this deep biological literacy. Indigenous people of Borneo, who have lived alongside orangutans for millennia, also use Fibraria in decoctions and poultices to treat wounds and fevers. It is difficult to say who learned first, the ape or the human, but perhaps the truth is shared ancestry rather than imitation. Long before the rise of civilization, both species inhabited the same forest classrooms, guided by observation and necessity. The orangutan's healing ritual also reveals how evolution rewards adaptability beyond brute strength. In this environment, where predators are few but disease is rampant, intelligence replaces aggression as the dominant survival tool. Orangutans are not social in the way chimpanzees are. They do not live in large troops or hunt cooperatively. Their battles are often internal, against injury, infection, and isolation. The ability to treat a wound alone is not just clever, it is essential. A solitary animal cannot rely on the care of others. Every scrape must be solved through ingenuity, not assistance. The canopy clinic, if one can call it that, operates without sterility or instruments, yet it achieves the same outcome: infection control, tissue protection, and recovery. Watching an orangutan treat its own wound challenges the anthropocentric idea that medicine requires culture or technology. Here, nature itself provides both doctor and drug. The orangutan's careful selection of plant type, application method, and subsequent rest mirrors the logical process of diagnosis, treatment, and convalescence. It is science written in instinct, experiment, and survival. As afternoon light filters through the high leaves, the forest hums with continuity. The treated orangutan dozes in her nest, her arm draped over a tangle of vines. Insects swarm, but keep their distance from the bitter-smelling paste. Over the next days, the cut will close cleanly, leaving only a faint scar beneath the orange fur. She will move on, vanishing into the labyrinth of green, leaving behind no trace of her procedure. Only the quiet proof that the rainforest itself is a living laboratory. In this story, medicine is not invention but inheritance. The orangutan's herbal wound care demonstrates how evolution shapes not only bodies but minds, teaching awareness, experimentation, and the capacity to act on knowledge. When she chooses a healing vine over a fruit, when she rests rather than forages, she embodies the earliest principle of medicine, that health can be regained through understanding the natural world. Long before humans bottled tinctures or mixed salves, a red ape in the canopy already practiced the same craft, healing not by faith, but by chemistry. The forest hums with a feverish energy. Warm air trembles with humidity, thick with the scent of fermenting fruit and wet soil. Sunlight drips through the canopy in golden threads, illuminating motes of dust and drifting gnats. It is late afternoon in a Central American rainforest, and everything here, from the leafcutter ants trudging below to the howler monkeys roaring in the distance, is locked in a daily rhythm of feeding, scratching, and surviving. In this vibrant chaos, a band of capuchin monkeys gathers among the tangled lianas of a fig tree. To the untrained eye, they seem restless, almost agitated, plucking leaves, breaking twigs, and sniffing the forest floor. But this is not play. It is preparation. Something is biting, and the monkeys have a cure. One capuchin finds what it is looking for, a small, dark millipede curled like a coiled wire beneath a rotting log. With a sharp flick of its nimble fingers, the monkey lifts the creature, sniffing it with the quick curiosity of experience. The millipede, alarmed, releases a milky secretion from its body, a defensive fluid rich in benzoquinones, compounds so acrid that most predators recoil immediately. The monkey, however, does not flinch. It knows this smell. It wants it. Clutching the millipede tightly, it begins to crush the invertebrate between its palms, smearing the thick yellowish fluid over its fur. Within seconds, others in the troop notice. They close in with eager chirps and grab whatever plant, fruit, or insect they can find. Soon, a miniature storm of scent fills the air. Citrus oil from crushed fruits, aromatic terpenes from leaves, and the pungent chemical tang of millipedes. What unfolds looks like chaos, a tangle of arms, tails, and fur as the monkeys rub themselves with almost frenzied enthusiasm. They twist and roll on branches, smearing their shoulders, faces, and tails with the pungent mixture. The behavior has a rhythm, almost ritualistic, as though the troop has entered a trance of communal self-care. Ethologists call this anointing, and among capuchins, it is one of the most intriguing examples of applied chemistry in the primate world. At its surface, the act seems simple, rubbing secretions to keep insects away. But deeper observation reveals layers of biological sophistication. The rainforest is a paradise and a pestilence. Heat and standing water breed swarms of mosquitoes, ticks, and biting flies. Parasites such as botflies and nematodes are constant threats, invading wounds, burrowing under skin, or feeding on blood. For animals living in such dense, moist environments, the war against infection never ends. Capuchins have adapted not through avoidance but through innovation. The substances they use, citrus oils, aromatic plants, and arthropod secretions, are all potent biochemical shields. Citrus fruits contain limonene and linalool, compounds known to repel mosquitoes and inhibit fungal growth. Certain leaves the monkeys use, like piper and citrus species, release terpenes, volatile organic molecules that plants evolved to deter herbivores, but which also disrupt the sensory organs of insects. Millipedes, for their part, produce benzoquinones, one of the most powerful natural insecticides known in the animal kingdom. When the monkeys crush them, they harness that chemistry, turning the millipedes' defense into their own armor. The result is a makeshift repellent cocktail, antibacterial, antifungal, and insecticidal all at once. It is a living example of zoopharmacognosy, the study of how animals use natural substances to maintain health. The timing of these anointing sessions is no coincidence. They erupt most frequently during the rainy season, when humidity peaks and mosquito populations explode. In these months, the forest's air is a living mist of insects, and every drop of sweat or blood draws attention. Observations show that capuchins engage in group anointing almost daily during these periods, while activity declines sharply in cooler, drier months. This cyclical behavior suggests not random curiosity, but an adaptive strategy synchronized with environmental conditions, a biological calendar written in scent and season. The process is remarkably social. Once one monkey begins anointing, others join in almost immediately. The behavior spreads through the troop like a contagious enthusiasm, a phenomenon known as social facilitation. Juveniles mimic adults, elders share materials, and the entire group becomes enveloped in what resembles a grooming frenzy. Individuals exchange millipedes or crushed leaves, sometimes stealing from one another, sometimes sharing deliberately. In the midst of it, boundaries blur. Dominant males rub shoulders with lower-ranking members, and even tense hierarchies soften under the shared purpose. Researchers studying these sessions often describe them as chemical grooming parties, where the line between hygiene and bonding disappears entirely. For the monkeys, anointing is both practical and psychological. The act distributes protective compounds, yes, but it also reinforces social cohesion. In primate societies, physical contact is the glue that binds individuals, lowering stress and strengthening alliances. When capuchins rub one another's backs with crushed plants and millipedes, they're not just sharing a repellent, they're renewing the invisible fabric of trust that holds their group together. This dual function, hygiene and harmony, reveals how evolution often builds complexity from simple needs. What began as pest control has become an essential ritual of unity. In the microcosm of the troop, this behavior even carries subtle politics. Dominant males often initiate anointing, setting the pace and controlling access to the best materials. Females, especially mothers, focus on their infants, ensuring the young are thoroughly coated. Subordinate individuals hover at the edges, waiting for leftovers or opportunities to join the group rub. Through this choreography, status, protection, and intimacy intertwine. The scene becomes not just survival, but society, a glimpse of how chemical self-care evolved into social intelligence. From a biological perspective, the capuchin's ingenuity is staggering. Their choice of ingredients shows a degree of selectivity that suggests learned behavior, not mere instinct. In some regions, troops prefer strong-smelling plants like clematis or alibertia, while others favor fruits with oily rinds. When millipedes are abundant, they take center stage. But when scarce, monkeys improvise with substitute botanicals. This flexibility points to a cognitive awareness of cause and effect, understanding, in essence, that certain substances change their bodily comfort and health. It is a primitive but real form of pharmacology, passed not through genes, but through generations of observation. Field biologists have noted that capuchins sometimes spend over an hour in these anointing bouts, thoroughly coating themselves before resuming feeding or travel. Afterward, they appear visibly more relaxed, grooming each other casually, or sunning themselves with half-closed eyes. The aftermath resembles a communal spa more than a military defense. Yet beneath that serenity lies a chemical shield invisible to predators and parasites alike. The combination of plant terpenes and millipede quinones forms a biochemical haze around their fur, masking body odors that attract mosquitoes and killing pathogens that could otherwise fester in the humid climate. In evolutionary terms, this adaptation illustrates how behavior can shape biology. Capuchins that regularly anoint are less likely to carry skin parasites, reducing disease transmission within the troop. Over generations, such habits become part of the species' cultural toolkit, behaviors learned, shared, and refined. Similar patterns occur in other primates, such as spider monkeys and lemurs, but capuchins take the practice to an extreme, combining ingredients like experimental chemists. They have, in effect, invented a natural insect repellent, long before humans distilled citronella or synthesized DEET. Watching them at work is to witness an ancient wisdom disguised as play. A young capuchin, still clumsy, over-applies citrus pulp to its fur until it drips. Another shakes violently, sneezing from the stinging scent, then imitates an adult's methodical rubbing. Through imitation and correction, knowledge passes forward. The forest becomes both pharmacy and classroom. Each scent, each plant, each insect encountered becomes data, memorized through experience, refined through time. When dusk descends and the forest cools, the troop settles into the branches, their fur faintly glistening in the low light. The chemical armor remains invisible but potent. Mosquitoes still whine through the air, yet the monkeys sleep undisturbed. In the quiet, one can sense the deeper rhythm of adaptation, the slow, cumulative intelligence of evolution expressed not in tools or words, but in scent, texture, and shared ritual. The anointing of Capuchin stands as a reminder that intelligence is not confined to technology or language. Sometimes it is found in the grasp of a millipede, the crush of a leaf, or the pungent cloud of self-made perfume rising through a tropical forest. In these acts of scented ingenuity, we glimpse a truth about nature itself, that survival is not only about endurance, but about awareness, the capacity to observe, to learn, and to turn the dangers of the world into protection. The forest awakens with a sound that rolls like distant thunder. It starts as a low rumble, deep and resonant, then builds into a long, echoing roar that seems to shake the mist from the treetops. The howler monkeys are calling. Their voices carry for several kilometers, vibrating through the dawn air like the heartbeat of the jungle itself. The calls mark territory, announce dominance, and perhaps in a way, proclaim survival, a declaration that despite the hardships of the canopy, they are still here. When the echoes fade, the forest falls back into a damp silence, pierced only by the hiss of insects and the dripping of dew from bromeliads. It is time to feed. The troop begins to move slowly through the branches, their tails, thick, muscular, and prehensile, curling like fifth limbs around branches slick with moss. Howlers are not in a hurry. Their pace is unhurried by design. They live on a diet that would starve or poison most other primates: leaves. Not tender young shoots or sugary fruit, but mature, fibrous leaves packed with tannins and defensive chemicals that plants have evolved specifically to discourage herbivores. Every bite is a biochemical gamble. But over countless generations, howlers have learned how to play this game, not by avoiding toxins, but by neutralizing them. Watch one closely as it selects its breakfast. It pauses, sniffs a branch, and carefully chooses the youngest leaves. Not because they are tastier, but because they strike a delicate balance between nutrition and toxicity. Older leaves are tough and high in cellulose. Young leaves, though softer, are laced with chemical deterrents like tannins and alkaloids. These compounds bind to proteins and digestive enzymes, making nutrients harder to absorb and potentially upsetting the gut. For many animals, such meals would cause cramps, nausea, or worse. For howlers, they are simply part of the menu, thanks to a strange, muddy secret hidden beneath the forest floor. Around midday, as the sun burns through the canopy haze, the troop makes its way to an exposed slope along a riverbank. The earth here is pale grey, almost white, a rare sight in the otherwise dark soil of the rainforest. This is a clay lick, a patch of mineral-rich ground where the forest itself seems to bleed from its roots. The howlers descend carefully, one by one, using their tails to brace their balance. Then they crouch low and begin to eat the soil. Their black lips pressed to the earth, tongues scooping up fine clay particles, swallowing in slow, deliberate motions. It looks almost ritualistic, as though they are tasting the planet itself. To understand this behavior, one must think in chemistry, not sentiment. The leaves the howlers eat contain a variety of plant secondary compounds, molecules that serve no direct role in plant metabolism, but act as powerful defenses against herbivory. Some of these, like tannins, can bind with iron and proteins, while others, such as phenols and alkaloids, interfere with digestion or act as mild poisons. Clay, however, is a natural antidote. Its particles carry a negative electrical charge, allowing them to attract and bind positively charged toxins through ionic exchange. In essence, the clay acts like a sponge, absorbing and neutralizing harmful compounds before they can pass into the bloodstream. This process, known as geophagy, is not unique to howler monkeys. Parrots, elephants, tapirs, and even humans have been observed doing the same. But in howlers, it is particularly vital. Their digestive system is adapted to extract energy from leaves through fermentation in the large intestine, a slow process that depends on microbial symbiosis. The microbes help break down cellulose and other complex carbohydrates into volatile fatty acids, which the monkeys can then absorb as energy. But this delicate partnership is vulnerable to plant toxins. By ingesting clay, the howlers protect both themselves and their gut flora, maintaining the microbial balance that sustains their low-energy lifestyle. The connection between diet and behavior is visible in every aspect of howler biology. Their broad, barrel-shaped bellies house an enlarged gut chamber filled with fermenting plant matter, a living cauldron of digestion that generates gas and heat. Their limbs are strong, but their movements are languid, conserving energy wherever possible. Unlike the quick, acrobatic capuchins or spider monkeys, howlers rarely leap or chase. They climb methodically, eat quietly, and rest often. In a forest where calories are hard won, efficiency is survival. Their days unfold in slow motion, their lives defined by endurance rather than speed. And yet, despite their slowness, they command the soundscape of the jungle. The same leaves that restrict their diet also fuel their voice. Within their massive throats lies an expanded hyoid bone, a resonating chamber that amplifies sound like a built-in drum. By forcing air through this chamber, they produce roars that seem far beyond their body size. The sound carries across valleys, serving as a vocal barrier between troops. It is energy well spent. The louder the call, the less likely they are to need physical confrontation over feeding grounds. Their diet, their physiology, and their social communication are intertwined in a cycle of conservation and adaptation. The clay licks themselves play a subtle ecological role. The minerals exposed there, sodium, calcium, magnesium, and trace elements, vary by region, reflecting the geological fingerprints of the forest. Howlers are drawn to these sites not only for detoxification, but also to replenish essential salts lost through their leaf-based diet. Sodium, in particular, is scarce in tropical foliage, and deficiencies can lead to nerve dysfunction or reproductive failure. By consuming clay, they obtain these critical nutrients in microdoses, turning geology into nutrition. Over time, these clay licks become crossroads for multiple species. Birds flutter down to feed alongside monkeys, rodents dig shallow pits, and butterflies sip from damp edges. Predators learn to watch from the shadows, aware that where prey gathers, opportunity follows. Yet for the howlers, the risk is worth it. Without clay, their leafy diet would slowly poison them. With it, they thrive. It is a delicate balance, one that transforms a simple act of eating dirt into a keystone behavior linking chemistry, health, and evolution. Scientific analysis of howler droppings collected near clay licks confirms the detoxifying effect. Samples show lower concentrations of plant tannins and alkaloids compared to feces from monkeys that have not visited these sites. The presence of fine-grained minerals, rich in kaolinite and montmorillonite, provides direct evidence of the clay's role in binding toxins. Field experiments have even demonstrated that monkeys return repeatedly to the same clay deposits, sometimes traveling long distances to reach them, suggesting learned behavior and perhaps even intergenerational knowledge. This adaptation has shaped their ecological niche. By mastering the chemistry of leaves, howlers occupy a feeding territory that few competitors can endure. Their ability to detoxify what others avoid gives them access to an almost limitless supply of food. In turn, their browsing habits influence the forest itself. By selectively feeding on certain trees, they shape plant regeneration patterns, indirectly guiding the structure of the canopy. Each mouthful of leaf and pinch of clay ripples outward through the ecosystem, connecting soil chemistry to forest dynamics in ways that only slow, persistent eaters could achieve. As afternoon heat builds, the troop retreats to the shade, settling into a dense cluster of branches. Their movements cease almost entirely. Only their tails twitch occasionally to flick away flies. Digestion now takes precedence over motion. The clay in their bellies works silently, neutralizing tannins and easing fermentation. In a few hours, the low rumble of their stomachs will give way once more to the deep bellows of dusk, their voices swelling as if to announce that another day of survival has passed. In the rhythm of their lives, there is a kind of chemical wisdom. The howler monkey is not a conqueror of the forest, but an alchemist within it, turning toxins into sustenance, soil into shield, and sound into dominance. Where other primates rely on speed, cleverness, or social maneuvering, howlers rely on understanding, a physiological pact with the forest's chemistry. Each leaf they chew, each mouthful of clay they swallow, is part of a grand equation written by evolution, balancing poison and cure, hunger and health, silence and sound. When night falls and the air cools, the forest holds its breath once more. Somewhere in the canopy, a single deep call begins, followed by another and another, until the whole valley vibrates with their chorus. It is not just a territorial cry, it is the anthem of survival, born from mud, leaf and time. The savanna wakes under a pale horizon, its air trembling with heat even before the sun climbs above the acacia line. Dust glows amber in the slanted light, curling from hooves, claws and paws that have long since carved this land into paths of habit. In this living theatre of drought and resilience, a troop of baboons fans out from a rocky outcrop. Their calls, short barks and soft grunts, weave into the morning chorus of francolins and doves. The landscape appears harsh and unforgiving, endless thorns, cracked earth and sparse shrubs. Yet to the baboon, it is a pharmacy, a pantry and a classroom, all rolled into one. They move like seasoned foragers, scanning every patch of scrub for hidden treasures. These primates are not picky eaters. Fruits, insects, roots, even small animals find their way into a baboon's diet. But today, their search has a particular urgency. The rains have just ended, and the warm, damp soil has awakened more than just grass. Invisible armies of parasites, worms, protozoa, and microbes thrive in the moisture, ready to invade any host careless enough to graze too freely. The baboons know this rhythm well. It's written in their behavior, shaped by generations of quiet observation and remembered discomfort. And so their feeding pattern shifts from indulgence to medicine. A large female leads the way, her thick mane tinged with grey, her face lined with experience. Older females are the guides of the troop, the keepers of its geographical and botanical memory. While males may dominate socially, it is the matriarchs who know where water hides beneath stone and which shrubs offer relief from illness. Her movements are deliberate as she approaches a cluster of succulent plants rising pale green against the ochre soil. The leaves are fleshy, tapering to fine points with translucent edges. She sits, plucks one, and bites down just enough to rupture the surface. A clear gel oozes out, glistening in the light. With practiced precision, she rubs the sap along her inner arm, smearing it across small abrasions caused by thorns. The aloe's cooling properties are immediate, a mild antiseptic and anti-inflammatory shield against infection in a world without rest days. Other baboons follow suit. Some chew fragments of the leaf, wincing at the taste before swallowing small portions. Aloe is intensely bitter, a flavor evolved by the plant to repel herbivores. But within that bitterness lies salvation. Its latex contains anthraquinones, compounds that act as laxatives and purgatives, flushing intestinal parasites from the gut. The gel's polysaccharides help the skin retain moisture while inhibiting bacterial growth. The baboon's use of this plant mirrors that of human herbalists across Africa and beyond, a convergence born from shared necessity rather than imitation. Not far from the aloe patch grows a cluster of aromatic grey-green herbs, their scent sharp and medicinal. The baboons approach cautiously, nibbling at the leaves in short bursts. These shrubs, similar in chemistry to wormwood or sagebrush, contain sesquiterpene lactones, bitter-tasting molecules known for their antiparasitic effects. Such plants are not part of the baboon's daily fare, they are seasonal remedies. Observers in the field have noted a striking pattern. Consumption spikes during periods of heavy rainfall when parasites flourish most. The timing is too consistent to be coincidence. When the rains come, the baboons become herbalists. The science behind this behavior is both elegant and pragmatic. Baboons host a range of gastrointestinal parasites, including tapeworms and roundworms, that can weaken the immune system and drain energy. Certain plants contain secondary metabolites capable of disrupting these parasites' life cycles, either by damaging their membranes, interfering with reproduction, or flushing them out through the digestive tract. The baboons seem to know just enough to use these effects to their advantage. Younger individuals may follow elders, tasting what they taste, learning through observation and mimicry which plants heal rather than harm. This transfer of knowledge, passed through generations without language, forms a kind of pharmacological culture encoded in memory and experience. Their pharmacy extends beyond plants. In some regions, baboons are seen visiting natural salt licks, patches of mineral-rich soil exposed by wind or animal traffic. They crouch low, scraping at the surface with their hands, then licking the fine powder or pressing clumps against their molars. These deposits are not random indulgences, they are chemical refueling stations. The minerals replace electrolytes lost through perspiration and foraging under the relentless sun. Sodium, calcium, and magnesium are particularly important for maintaining nerve function and muscle coordination, especially during long dry seasons when water is scarce and the heat pushes their bodies toward dehydration. Some researchers have found that these visits increase after intense physical exertion or stress, hinting at a form of nutritional self-regulation that borders on diagnostic. Back among the aloe plants, the troop settles into a rhythm. The younger males groom each other, occasionally swiping fingers through their fur where dried sap has stiffened it into natural armor against insects. Grooming is already a vital part of baboon society, a social glue that reduces tension and strengthens bonds, but today it also becomes medical. The aloe residue, rich in acamanin and aloin, deters flies and mosquitoes, reduces inflammation from bites, and soothes the skin. The grooming pairs are not just building relationships, they are participating in communal healthcare. Every motion reflects a sophisticated understanding of the ecosystem's chemistry. When food is abundant, the baboons graze broadly, maximizing energy intake. When sickness looms, they turn selective, targeting species that support healing. It's an adaptive intelligence that relies on pattern recognition rather than conscious reasoning, an evolutionary dialogue between body and environment. Through trial and survival, the baboon's ancestors learned that bitterness often hides benefit, and the forest floor became a library of cures. What makes this even more remarkable is the leadership dynamic underpinning it. Matriarchs often lead the troop toward medicinal patches long before younger members show signs of illness. Field notes from the Amboseli and Tsavo reserves in Kenya describe instances where older females redirected group movement over several kilometers to reach known aloe groves during periods of high parasite infection. Their timing matched environmental cues invisible to less experienced eyes. Subtle changes in rainfall, temperature, or even the bloom cycle of certain herbs. Their wisdom ensures not just their own survival, but the resilience of the entire troop. In evolutionary terms, this guidance is a living inheritance. The connection between plant chemistry and primate physiology deepens the longer one looks. The same compounds that defend plants from grazing, alkaloids, tannins, phenolics, are repurposed by the baboon's biology into tools of defense. The act of stripping a leaf or licking clay becomes a biochemical handshake between two life forms locked in mutual adaptation. Plants evolved to discourage feeding, primates evolved to exploit those very defenses. Over millennia, this arms race produces not only resistance but knowledge, a kind of embodied awareness that shapes feeding behavior, reproduction, and even migration routes. By late afternoon, the heat eases, and the troop moves back toward higher ground. The horizon shimmers with mirages of distant water, and the air tastes of dust and sunburned grass. The baboons pause at a granite outcrop, their silhouettes etched against the fading sky. Some rest, bellies full, while others continue to pick at shrubs, testing leaves with the patience of pharmacists. Beneath them, the savanna hums with hidden toxins, stings, and microbes, yet they remain vigorous, adapted to coexist with them rather than escape them. Their survival is not brute endurance, but chemical negotiation. As dusk bleeds into indigo, the troop gathers close for the night, their shapes merging into the contours of the rocks. Somewhere in the distance, a lion growls, and the wind carries the scent of rain. But the baboons sleep untroubled, their skin soothed by aloe, their bellies calmed by bitter herbs, their bodies fortified with minerals from the earth. In the grand story of evolution, they are both doctors and patients, creatures that learned long before humans that the cure often grows beside the poison. The morning light in southern Madagascar breaks through the spiny forest like liquid gold, dripping between the long, hooked thorns of Didiera trees. The air hums with heat even before the sun fully crests the horizon. This is a land of paradoxes, a place where drought and abundance coexist, where species found nowhere else on Earth have adapted to rhythms both merciless and precise. Among the forest's low shrubs and towering baobabs, a troop of ring-tailed lemurs begins its day, their striped tails rising like periscopes through the underbrush. Their calls, soft grunts and occasional clicks, ripple through the dusty air. These animals, with their curious faces and bright eyes, are Madagascar's oldest primate lineage and its most enduring survivors. And today, like healers in fur, they will perform one of the most remarkable chemical rituals in the natural world. The lemurs fan out across the dry woodland, foraging for fruit, young leaves, and insect prey. But beneath their search for food lies another mission, one that speaks to their evolutionary sophistication. Parasites are constant companions in this tropical environment. The forest floor is teeming with nematodes, mites, and mosquitoes, all waiting for a chance to feed. In such a world, disease management is as vital as feeding or mating. The lemurs have developed a response, not with tools, but with chemistry. The answer comes crawling at their feet. A single ring-tailed lemur stops, sniffs, and reaches into the leaf litter. It plucks up a millipede, a slow, segmented creature coiled like an armored rope. The insect wriggles in protest, but the lemur grips it firmly. Then, in an act that seems both strange and deliberate, the lemur sinks its teeth into the millipede's body. Thick, yellowish foam oozes from the crushed exoskeleton, and a pungent odor rises, acrid, chemical, almost peppery. To most animals, this would be a warning. Millipedes secrete benzoquinones and hydrogen cyanide, compounds evolved as potent deterrents, capable of blistering skin and repelling predators. But the lemur knows exactly what it is doing. With practiced precision, it chews the millipede just enough to release the fluid, then works the mixture into its fur, rubbing vigorously across its limbs, shoulders, and tail. The foam coats the grey and white hairs, darkening them momentarily with a chemical sheen. Nearby, other members of the troop take notice. Within minutes, several join in, each grabbing its own millipede, repeating the same odd ritual: bite, foam, rub, and spread. The forest fills with a faint, acrid scent as the lemurs transform themselves into walking laboratories. To an observer, this behavior might look erratic or even playful. But biologists have studied it closely, and the results are extraordinary. The benzoquinones in millipede secretions are potent insect repellents, disrupting the sensory systems of mosquitoes and other biting flies. They also have antifungal and antiparasitic properties. When lemurs smear these secretions across their fur, they create a chemical barrier, one that wards off the swarming mosquitoes of Madagascar's humid season. Some individuals even swallow small amounts, a risky act that delivers a sublethal dose of the compounds to the gut, helping to kill internal parasites. It is a toxic therapy, but one honed by millennia of adaptation. Madagascar's forests are pressure cookers of evolution. Isolated from the rest of the world for over 60 million years, its ecosystems have developed unique patterns of coevolution between plants, insects, and animals. Parasite loads here are unusually high, driven by dense vegetation and cyclical rains. For lemurs, small-bodied, slow-metabolizing primates, such infestations can cripple reproduction and reduce lifespan. The millipede remedy provides a remarkable defense, not genetic but behavioral. This is a case of self-medication, or zoopharmacognosy, observed in only a handful of animal lineages. Where humans once discovered quinine and penicillin, lemurs discovered millipede toxin. The process is not random. Studies of ring-tailed lemurs show that this anointing behavior spikes during specific times of the year, particularly at the start of the rainy season, when mosquitoes emerge in vast clouds and intestinal parasites reach their highest transmission rates. The correlation is clear: the more humid the forest, the more frequent the anointing. Lemurs also show selectivity. targeting particular millipede species known to produce quinone-rich secretions. They even seem to prefer older, slower individuals, perhaps because their glands produce more concentrated toxins. Evolution has turned foraging into pharmacy, trial into tradition. The chemistry behind this ritual is astonishingly effective. Benzoquinones disrupt cellular respiration in insects and worms, blocking enzymes essential for energy production. When absorbed in small doses by mammals, these compounds stimulate detoxification pathways in the liver, activating enzymes that process other toxins, a biochemical chain reaction that boosts the body's resilience. For the lemur, this means cleaner blood, calmer skin, and a lower chance of infection. Survival advantages that, over evolutionary time, have shaped their population health and behavior. Their use of millipedes also influences their social structure. The anointing often becomes a group affair. Troop members rub against each other during or after application, spreading the repellent evenly through mutual contact. These sessions are as much about hygiene as they are about cohesion. Grooming and scent marking are already key elements of lemur society. Now, chemical self-care becomes another form of bonding. In this way, millipede use serves both physiological and social purposes, strengthening ties while strengthening immunity. Yet this behavior carries risks. Millipede toxins in high doses are dangerous even to lemurs. Overexposure can lead to neurological distress or chemical burns. The primates manage this danger through moderation and experience. Young lemurs watch adults closely, mimicking them but never consuming large quantities. Knowledge here is learned through observation, passed not through genes but through generations of imitation. Each troop maintains its own chemical culture, a living record of what works and what kills. The ecological ripple effects of this self-medication extend far beyond the lemurs themselves. Healthy individuals travel farther, feed longer, and defecate seeds across wider ranges. Madagascar's dry forests depend on this dispersal to regenerate after drought or fire. Without the lemur's mobility, many native tree species, from tamarins to aloe, would struggle to spread. Thus, the act of chewing a millipede links directly to the rebirth of forests. By reducing parasite loads and disease risk, this behavior ensures that lemurs remain active agents of reforestation. Their medicine, in a sense, becomes the forest's cure as well. From a scientific perspective, the lemur-millipede relationship also highlights the hidden chemical conversations that structure ecosystems. Millipedes evolve toxins for defense, never expecting to become allies in primate health. Lemurs turn those weapons into tools, transforming danger into remedy. This cycle of exploitation and adaptation mirrors larger evolutionary dynamics across the island, where plants, fungi, and animals constantly refine their chemistries in a game of survival that rewards innovation as much as instinct. At a broader scale, the lemur's millipede anointing reveals the evolutionary bridge between instinct and intelligence. Unlike humans, they cannot conceptualize cause and effect, yet their actions are not random reflexes. The behavior demonstrates a form of empirical learning, one where observation and outcome shape future choices. If an itchy skin heals or a stomach settles after anointing, that experience becomes memory. And memory in evolution is the first step toward culture. As the day deepens, the forest fills with heat and sound. Cicadas scream from the branches, and the scent of dry resin drifts through the air. The lemurs retreat to the shade of a tamarind tree, grooming each other while the younger ones clamber across low limbs. Their fur glistens faintly, coated in the residue of their millipede mixture. Mosquitoes buzz nearby but rarely land. The forest hums around them, a living chorus of resilience, chemistry, and adaptation. When evening falls, the troop will move again, scattering seeds in their droppings as they feed. Behind them, the forest breathes, sustained by creatures who, in curing themselves, heal the land that sustains them. The millipedes will continue to crawl through the soil, oblivious to their place in this grand exchange, while the lemurs, bright-eyed and vigilant, will return to them season after season, renewing a pact older than memory. In the end, the lemur's medicine is more than self-preservation. It is a story of how life learns to adapt not only through strength, but through awareness, through the understanding, however wordless, that within every toxin lies the possibility of cure. In the forests of Madagascar, survival is not just a battle against nature's dangers. It is a dialogue with them, one that the lemurs have been speaking for millions of years.